conversational.
Yeah,
And we'll go for about 30 to 40 minutes. And we'll just talk about all things talent acquisition and retention and career development.
sure thing. Awesome.
Let me turn off my notifications. They're all over. Okay. And Jonathan, you'll let us know when we're live? We're live. Okay. Well, I don't see it live, but that's okay. I'll get started anyway. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on Talent Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, March 30th. I had to think about it for a second. And I have a very special guest with me here today, Marquise Kimble. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you all.
Yeah, I know. I'm so happy that you were able to come and talk to us today. You have a very interesting career in talent acquisition and recruiting, and I think that we can all learn a lot from your experiences. So instead of me introducing you, this is something I've tried to do. I'm not very good at reading people's bios because I just like go on and on and on. So I would like you to go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, about your current position, and where you are joining us from today.
Sure thing. So I am in Richmond, Virginia. It's finally warming up. But I actually have been in recruiting talent acquisition for a decade. I literally just graduated a decade ago. But I've been in talent acquisition for a while. Have enjoyed the people aspect of, how companies are built and things of that matter. Initially went to school for accounting, and I saw that I didn't want to be behind a desk crunching numbers, even though numbers are pretty concrete to me. But you kind of like really just woke up to the fact of, hey, every company is built around numbers, people, and ethics and morals and principles and things of that matter. So it's just my deductive reasoning side of my brain, but I chose to continue to go down the talent acquisition road. And here I am now. I'm essentially a regional manager, not regional manager, but regional recruiter for a substance abuse and mental health recovery company. And so I handle a territory between Virginia and Georgia. And
wow, that's a big territory.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's a learning curve, to say the least.
Yeah. And you were just doing medical recruiting with another company for a couple of years. Is that correct?
Yes. So I was
just transitioned.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Interesting field and of an interesting time to go into the healthcare field, period. I think it's either been, tech has been in upkick of need for personnel as well as the medical field. So it's definitely an interesting road to toe in and of itself.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right there. So thank you so much for joining us today. And for all of you that are logging in right now, please go ahead and drop us a line in the comments. Let us know where you're logging in from today and hit the like or share button if you would. That would be wonderful. And then also, if you have any specific questions for Mr. Marquise, please put them in the comment section. I'll make sure that he sees them and we can discuss those as well. So I wanted to start out by, and I've done this a couple of times, and I think this is the best way to start interviews, is I want you to tell me your biggest win. What has been the biggest highlight of the past year? I know it's been a dreary, often confusing, frustrating year, but I wanted to know, what is your biggest win of the past year?
Are we talking about from a job standpoint or
personal or professional? Like, it doesn't, I mean, in my life, my personal and professional life is kind of blended together because I live at my office and my office is also my home. So just anything, any big win you've had this year, anything that stands out to you that was incredibly positive.
It's honestly a loaded question. I'll just say last year, even up to today, my capacity was stretched immensely. And it was great. It was challenging, but it was great. I'm a Christian by faith. So last year was honestly like really, I grew in my humility I grew in my patience for
Yeah.
a lot of people, in a lot of aspects. But my motto last year was, the more you try to figure it out, the more frustrated you get, just because there's a lot of things that you can't control. All you can control is your actions and your attitude. And
Right.
so, but that tailored, I mean, that was from a personal life aspect, but then that kind of bled into my professional life. Whereas, you know, I was essentially, for the company that I was at beforehand, I was the only recruiter handling the territory that I actually did. And so
You were overstretched.
overstretched, yes, but it was one of those things where you don't really know what skills you need until you jump into the deep end, essentially. And so it was definitely eye-opening, just to honestly kind of reveal to myself how much I could actually handle in that capacity for as long as I did, and really woke up some kind of like, you know, there's always hidden skills that are like swept under the rug until you actually need to revert back to those things, or skills that are on the bookshelf until you actually need to go back to them. So there was a lot of things that I actually had to revert back to, obviously with the teammates and colleagues that I worked with, that kind of helped with, you know, revealing those things. But there was a lot of skills that I actually didn't know I had to revert back to, from organizing to getting better at organizing, because I'm a by default fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. So let's just charge the hills and we'll worry about what we need when we get there, kind of thing. So it really kind of helped me fine tune those organizational skills. I'm a executor. So figuring out, hey, we don't have anything right now, so I need to figure out how to get what we need, and looking at other tools and techniques, and building relationships with different people that I didn't know, whether here or no, across a few states or whatever the case may be. So it really forced me to look outside of my comfort zone and my defaults in my immediate situation. So
Okay. Yeah. So it sounds like you had like a ton of professional growth over the past year. Almost.
absolutely.
What do you feel like it was just absolutely out of necessity, or was it you were ripe for it was the perfect timing for you to have that type of pressure, and you like stood up and you met the challenge?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think it was, I mean, I was kind of positioned to kind of handle that because of stuff that I've done before.
Okay.
So it's just mental conditioning. But at the same time, it was kind of, you know, you don't really know what you need to do until you just jump in.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of challenges. I attack stuff head on. So I've kind of conditioned my mind to, hey, if it's challenges, it's kind of like you see movies where the kid who's being bullied finally stands up to the bully in those movies. It's kind of like, in my mind, I've conditioned myself to look at challenges as, I'm not going to back down. I'm going to figure out how to overcome this.
Okay.
So it was just that, more so that than, you know, a lot of the conditioning that I've actually had when it came to recruiting, talent acquisition, building networks, relying on my network that I had built for several years, and all those kind of things. So, and then just being creative, critical thinking, learning how to, you know, manage collateral damage in some aspects and stuff like that. So it was, for the most part, it was just jumping in and figuring out how to maneuver in the chaos.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad. I mean, because I know that so many people have struggled, and this past year for me personally has been, you know, really hard in personal development, especially in professional development. And it feels like I am just um, doing the same thing over and over and over and over. You know, the whole setup of working from home and being every single day online and live on Zooms and whatnot, it got very monotonous. And I felt like I wasn't growing a whole lot until I took um, I took it upon myself to start reading more, to learn more, to like re-engage back in that network, re-engage back in the things that are going to make me better at my job. And it took a lot of like personal willpower for sure. So
Yeah.
kudos to you for doing it and for getting it done. So we have a couple people that have said hello. Joanne and Rollis both wanted to welcome you to the show today. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
So I also like to start off by asking, what's your setup like? What's your work, office, commute? What are you doing right now? Are you working from home?
I do work from home. So I work from home remotely, full time, 100%. But at the same time, I have to change up the scenery.
Yeah.
So I'll work from home for maybe 2, 3, 4 hours or so, and then I start to get the itch that I
Yeah.
need to move. And
Yep.
so I'll either go to if I'm in Richmond or whatever the case may be, I'll try and go to a hotel or something like that, or the Panera Bread, and just kind of commune and just to kind of like change up the scenery,
Get
so I'm
out.
not
Yeah.
stagnant and it gets boring or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
I know that's necessary because you're working, you're especially deep in the weeds of work and stuff like that. Sometimes I'll have to travel to wherever my different sites are and stuff like that, and just kind of change up the scenery and go and meet people in my other offices and stuff like that. So
Right.
you definitely have to change up the scenery to keep it interesting, to say the least.
I think that's so true. Sometimes I just move to different rooms in my house.
Yeah.
Different locations. You just have to get out of the one situation that you're always in. So, what parts of recruiting for you? I guess first tell us about the positions that you're recruiting for right now in talent acquisition, and then let us know what has changed about recruiting in the past year.
I mean, so current positions that I actually recruit for in the healthcare field are obviously LPNs and RNs, as far as nurses, residential aides, certified medication assistants, on up to executive directors, licensed mental health professionals, whether they have CSAC, LMFTs, LCSWs, MSWs in those capacity. Obviously, there's more acronyms to name that are coming to my frontal lobe, but those are kind of like the variants of different positions that I actually recruit for right now. And so honestly, over the last year, it's really just kind of, especially with COVID and shutting everything down, and people are really particular on where they go and what companies they work with and things like that. It's really kind of forced a lot of people to be creative. It's really made people honestly kind of look outside of just depending on their ATS or CRMs, because some people aren't, depending on the company and depending on the infrastructure, they're not getting that much buy-in or candidate flow in that respect. So they have to be creative. They have to, okay, I'm not getting the candidate flow in my personal ATS, so I need to see about using other platforms. I need to get creative with what virtual job fairs I can actually tune into. Okay, let's just call it schools. I have a school that we're connected with in Richmond. How can I connect with their satellite sites based off of where we actually have regional facilities at, beyond Richmond and things like that? And how do I connect those people to where I'm also recruiting in Georgia or whatever the case may be? So it's really definitely kind of forced people to be a lot more creative than they were stagnant in.
Yes.
Even too.
You can't find candidates in the same place all the time.
No, not at all.
And I feel like, especially in the RN recruiting space, that's, what we specialize in, it changed overnight almost. I mean, in a period of maybe 2 to 3 months, RN recruiting completely changed because the need changed and the supply and demand completely changed, and how how they were looking for jobs. It was just a lot different. You don't get to go to the same place to find people anymore. It was a very creative time, that's for sure.
Yeah, even to the fact of, I mean, when you look at the monetary aspects that people were looking for now, before COVID, it was, people were, LPNs and RNs were willing to work for 20 or 30 an hour, depending on, obviously geographic region and stuff like that. But now they're, hypothetically speaking, they're looking for $1 million an hour because of the extra, the fillers and all that kind of stuff. So you have to get creative with, selling your company, selling your benefits, selling, we're often less than that, but here's what we're actually giving you on the front end, instead of no benefits and you're on your own and $40 an hour kind of thing. Right.
It definitely changed. And I think a lot of employers realized very quickly that just offering a paycheck and maybe some like little benefits weren't going to
Mhm.
cut it anymore. It just wasn't going to cut it. You had to protect your workers. You had to make sure
Yeah.
that they all had the ample protection and PPP, that they had the time off needed, that they had the backup staff. And that was the biggest change that we saw, was the level of burnout of your regular staff, because they were working so many extra hours that they needed replacements, they needed backfill nurses, they needed more people. And obviously the prices went up like crazy. But I think with that change has come a lot more understanding from the employer's perspective,
Yep.
knowing that they have to treat these extremely valuable individuals, extremely valuable employees, with a lot more trust, respect, and honestly, providing better benefits, providing better pay, providing a better workplace environment.
Yeah.
It was intense. One of the things that Rollis and I have talked about, and we're actually having a discussion, a webinar later today, is our company has done a huge survey of about 9,500 job postings across the US for RNs. And we found, a lot of really interesting statistics and themes that have come from doing that type of research. And, we found that sign-on bonuses across the
Mhm.
nation vary greatly. You have some places that are offering $20,000 sign-on bonuses.
Yeah.
And so, and if that's, a competing hospital and you can only offer 4,000 as a sign-on bonus, you're at a massive disadvantage. So, what as recruiters, what have you done as a recruiter that helps you recruit people and retain people, but that's not just based on money?
Yeah. So there in turn ties into the relationship aspect.
Mhm.
And as a recruiter, you're the first face line of defense, essentially. So you have to sell that relationship. You have to be smiling, the soft skills. You have to be smiling on the phone. You have to sound inviting. You have to not sound so robotic when you're actually calling candidates. And I mean, that's the reality of the situation. You have to be friendly. You have to look at the soft skills and sell yourself, essentially, and then sell the company. Because that's what I'm buying it as somebody who has looked for jobs. I'm looking for, one, how does this person sound that's actually calling me for this job? And how can they sell me on the fact that their company is worth me actually buying into? Right.
Right.
And then secondly, the money, or thirdly, the
Yeah.
money. Right. So it's definitely force. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's forced you to kind of like look beyond just reading down the script and reading down the job description. Hey, do you have these skill sets? Do you have this license? And hey, do you want to work for us? When can you start? Tomorrow, kind of thing. You have to be willing to look beyond that and talk to the person, converse with them, get them laughing, talking on the phone. Find ways of getting buy-in for them wanting to actually conversate with you over the conversation and get beyond that barrier of, hey, I'm in an interview anxiety, right? And literally, I mean, that's where you have to be creative beyond that, and sell the company, sell the benefits, sell the soft skills. Hey, you're going to be impacting the community in this aspect. Here's what nurses have actually said about working in this environment, coming from the ER, the hospital, coming from corrections, or whatever the case. Selling those benefits and selling the stories. People buy stories. I heard this quote. People say where it said, people buy testimonies and then they buy the product, right? And so it's they selling that and selling the stories, and then you can tie into, hey, we're not going to be able to pay you $30 an hour. We're offering 24, but hey, here's is this something that you would be willing to? Here's the owner. He actually had to deal with this. This is why he actually built the company, and selling the stories behind the job in and of itself, and selling yourself. And I mean, I've had people who've actually bought into me, and even when they've had shifts in their schedule, when they actually had to change their interview and things like that, they called the recruiter back, because that was their initial impression on the company. They called me back. Hey, I can't do this, I can't do that. When you talk about retention, retention kind of boils down to the relationships. It doesn't stop at when they're starting the job at orientation, onboarding, that whole retention piece continues until they leave legitimately, right? How is the management tying that relationship with the candidate? How are they coaching? How are they developing? People don't just stay because they need a job. Most oftentimes,
right?
They stay because of the environment. They stay because they don't feel just like a number. They stay because, okay, I'm doing a job and they need me, but do I feel valued here? All those kind of things. So
one of the things that I think is going to happen in the next couple of years, especially in the healthcare space, is you're going to see more companies really focusing on career development. And in the past, in recruiting, we never talked about really career development unless the candidate was very specific about, hey, I want to come in and work for this many years and then go on and become an NP. What is your education reimbursement? What is your tuition reimbursement? What do you guys do for this? Do you have any programs where I can learn? Can I do my preceptorship here? What we're finding is that a lot more candidates want to know from day one, if I start here on your roadmap, where can I go with this organization? Do I have to stay in this position for 10 years before I can move up here? Or is there an actual progression? And I think that companies have, for too long, I think, been a little bit too laissez-faire about it, like, oh, well, you can do this or you can kind of do this, but creating actual career pathways, career plans and roadmaps for people is going to be a very big driver in creating retention.
That's one thing I always ask anyways as well with candidates is ideally what's your end game, because money is a moving target. Essentially, if beyond the company, you have to sell the fact that, hey, we actually do encourage growth and development. Are you working on this? Are you putting yourself in a position to win? I mean, that's a selling point too. I mean, we're in a different generation than we were 10, 15, 20 years ago. People are leaving companies, not just because of environment, but their opportunities for growth and development. Okay, I'm an NP here. I've been an NP for 10 years or so like that, but this company is offering me, they're offering me a little less, but they're telling me, hey, I'm coming in at this, but here's an opportunity for me to be here next year. And or they're giving them something to look forward to,
or to move into administration or management or training and development. And so so for right now, when do you talk to candidates about career path? At what point in the process do you talk to them about it?
So I'm talking to them on the front end. I'm talking about the company. I'm talking to them about that's also kind of where it ties into actually getting to know your organization and getting to know people's stories. And so I said people buy stories, and so if they actually hear that, I'm talking to you as an LPN and here's the opportunity here, but hey, look, here's somebody in our organization that came in at where you are, and this is their growth. They're an RN manager now. They're an executive director of one of our facilities, and this is where they started out where you were, but in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because they actually pursued those opportunities, this is where they are now. And so if somebody, and you can kind of hear when a candidate, that's something that's important to them because they talk about it, they ask about it, or you may say something that leads to them questioning about it, and you can actually talk about those things.
That's really, I think that for me, in the recruiting space, I think that talking to the candidates early and often about those kind of things, and also gauging their interest in growth. Because, and this is another thing, there are some candidates out there that aren't interested in that. They're looking for a staff position and they want to be staff for numerous years because they're at a different place in their life. But talking to the candidates and having an open and honest conversation about, this is what our retention looks like. This is what our career development plan looks like. I think we're getting really far away from that old 1950s and 60s, stay at a company for 40 years and get your gold watch and leave, or 30 years or whatever it is. And so being upfront and honest And then also the organization understanding that you're going to have natural attrition. You're going to have people leave, and that's okay. But the plan needs to be that those are replaceable positions,
Mhm.
with the idea that you do want some long-term, people that stay. You want your tenure to grow. So, I mean, it's just interesting to me. Do you have any specific tips or tricks or just best practices, I guess, not tricks, best practices around how you speak to candidates about career development?
One, educate yourself on, or educating myself on the company's growth and development plan, whether that's something they actually, just talk about, or is that something that's, true within the organization? Because some companies do mention that, but they don't really harp on it because that's not their
They have it
focus.
on paper, but
Yeah,
nothing ever happens, right?
right. And so, I mean, my only tip, or what I actually do, is talking to the candidate candidly. People in today's day and age, they want the truth. Some don't want the truth, but they would rather you tell them the truth than find out later it's something different than what was propositioned.
Right.
And so, being candid with it, the individual, and telling them about the growth and development plan. What's, hey, this is not going to be an overnight, months, a year. You have to prove yourself. But if that's something that you actually aspire to do, here's where the opportunity lies. And talking to them about, if your management went through that. We actually have a lady who started with the company and that I'm working with now, and she's transitioned into a different position, a management position, handling other responsibilities. And when that opportunity came up, she took it. And if someone was coming into my company that I was actually talking to from a candidate aspect, I would talk to them about that story.
Okay.
If that was something I was interested to on the front end, and being as candid as possible. Hey, it's not going to be overnight, but if you actually prove yourself, you may not get everybody's attention, but you only need one person's attention to actually see what you're actually doing, and just continue to follow through on that. And when the opportunity comes up, speak up.
Right.
And talk about it. And if the door opens up, great. If it doesn't, then keep doing what you're doing.
So have you used like candidate videos? Have you used any video production in helping get across your organization's culture or environment, or those testimonials? Have you used that at all?
Yeah, we were actually just having a meeting earlier today about that. So
because we do a lot of that. We've been in this space for many years, and we create realistic job previews for people. And I agree, people buy the testimonial before they buy the product, and they want to hear from real life people that work there, and they want to see what it's like to work there. So sorry, go ahead. I'm excited to hear what you guys are talking about.
No, we were talking about honestly, just in our signature of our email and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about when we're actually emailing and talking to candidates, actually sending them, hey, here's what our CEO has to say about why he actually started the company.
Yeah.
Here's some stories from other coworkers or colleagues that actually work in different departments, and what they have to say about why they actually work for our organization. I mean, that's essential. I mean, like you said, I mean, stories sell. And if you actually really kind of honestly get to the bottom of, hey, here's who we're about, this is why we actually do what we do, and kind of build that bridge between the candidate and the company, people will go to another company where they can actually make less money but make a bigger difference than just punching numbers and doing Excel spreadsheets.
That's very true. And one of the best practices I can give for you, because you guys are starting out on your video journey right now, is very candid, very transparent. Go through a day in the life, go through what it's like to work there. And some of the things that you think might be drawbacks or something, put them out there right in front of the candidate. Let them see it, because they can make that the educated decision, rather than, like you said, we pretend that the company's this thing and we're going to do all of these things, but then when you actually start, it doesn't happen.
Right.
Be more honest and transparent about we're working on improving our processes right now. It's a little bit chaotic. We're hoping to bring on more staff because of this, and this, and actually like film those conversations, film the things that are challenges for the organization. And then it also provides like a place, a baseline. So 2 years ago, this is where we were, and we've moved this far forward. And so I'm excited. I would love to see some of the video production that you guys do.
Yeah, that's when I actually started working with the organization, that's some of the stuff that actually really stuck with me, was actually seeing, the stories of, okay, the owner actually, he's dealt with this situation personally, and that's why he actually started the company. Or, hearing the stories from, the accountants or the, CTO or whatnot, and listening to my colleagues and whatnot, and what their experiences as to why they're with this organization, not just for the sake of the paycheck, but for the sake of the difference that they're actually making, what they feel that they're making in the big scheme of things. And so, but that's honestly what struck a chord with me, is to like, not just at a company because I need a paycheck and I got to eat and pay bills, but hey, I'm actually tying into something that's bigger than the dollar bill kind of thing.
Right.
So
that's wonderful. And it's how pertinent for you that you were just basically in that recruiting process, because this is a new position for you. So I'm sure that you can use a lot of that in talking to new candidates that you're currently recruiting.
Absolutely. I think any recruiter should use their personal experiences in sales. We're all in sales, right? Yeah. So yeah. I think any recruiter should use their personal experience and their personal testimony as a sales tactic. Not to coerce or manipulate anything, but to be just blatantly transparent or candidly transparent. But to let the candidate know that, hey, here's where I was, here's why I actually started with this company, and here's, just from the outside looking in, here's how I see that it's impacted me in recruiting the people that actually make a difference in the field, on the front lines and stuff like that. And so, I do talk about that. I do talk about my personal experience and stuff, because it's real.
Yeah. And that's all that you can ask for. That's wonderful. And as a recruiter, I think that's what we have to do. We can't just sell like a pretend company, because very quickly people will find out that's not realistic. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and ask you about, if you can share, I don't know if you are able to or not, but about some of your go-to like tech recruiting, like what's in your tech stack? What kind of ATS are you using? Are you using any AI? What are you using for ad platforms? Like, how are you getting people to see your jobs?
So we actually use UltiPro, and
that's super popular in the healthcare space.
Yeah, so we use UltiPro as well as Indeed. As far as that platform and everything. So, but those are the tech platforms that we currently use right now. We're obviously working on, seeing what else is out there and where we can actually draw some more attention than others and such. But those are a couple platforms that we're actually using right now.
And you said you did some virtual career fairs. Was that through UltiPro?
No, so that was like through some of the schools in the local Richmond area, like Bryan and Stratton, which is here in Richmond. They actually have a few satellite locations as well, or ECPI. Locations like that if we have sites and locations here in Richmond, but they also have satellite sites in South Carolina and Georgia and things like that. So,
and that's part of your region, so it makes
so just kind of building that relationship home base that kind of ties into us building relationships external to that because of our home plate, essentially.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Big picture here, what do you think the future of healthcare recruitment is going to look like?
I think it's gonna, and to be quite honest, I think it's gonna require a lot more creativity, and it's gonna entail a lot more money on the front end, because a lot of people, they're seeing the opportunities, they're seeing what's out there, they're seeing what opportunities are offering here versus they're paying more here for what I'm already doing at this company. And so it's gonna entail a lot of creativity. It's gonna entail people actually in companies getting out of the box of normal, And it's going to require you actually getting creative with how you attract good talent, not just anybody. All talent ain't good talent.
Well, that's a really good key. All talent is it's just not good talent. You're right.
So
there's a very big difference there.
Yeah, attracting the right people, attracting good candidates, and it's going to require you actually